Bill Twyford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to just return or pick up on the whole question that Trevor Mallard spoke about in relation to the checks and balances on ministers. And those checks and balances are a really important part of the conventions of accountable government. And the minister responsible for this bill and the minister who will in all likelihood be the Rugby World Cup minister, his conduct as a minister is an affront to the conventions of accountable government. And I want to give you a couple of examples that I think are relevant to this whole debate about the granting of urgency powers. This minister, as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, has in recent times appointed a former National MP, Mark Blumsky. The minister, intervened to award a contract worth $78,000. He awarded it to the former National MP, Mark Blumsky.
Point of order, Joe Goodhue.
Mr. Chair, I am looking for relevance to this particular part and I've failed to find it.
Well,
no, we're not going to have that, thank you. I would say to the member that although members have said this is a wide-ranging debate, it is not. And people have strayed off, and I guess it's bits backwards and forwards. But I would suggest to the member you need to concentrate on Part 4. If there are other examples that can tie in by way of example, but they cannot be the main thrust of the member's speech. We're on Part 4 of the bill. But the member to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you say, we are discussing Part 4. We are discussing, in particular, the granting of what we regard as excessive powers under the urgency provisions of this bill that allow the Rugby World Cup minister to make decisions that override the recommendations of the officials that are empowered under this bill as the Rugby World Cup authority. And that calls into question the commitment of this government to the normal conventions of accountable government. And my point, sir, right now is that this minister has demonstrated by his own ministerial record the very reasons why we must have those conventions of accountable government respected. And it's very easy to imagine situations where this minister, under this legislation, could ignore the advice of officials and override them in the way that he has consistently, as Minister of Foreign Affairs, ignored the advice of foreign affairs officials. He has a track record of making decisions on a whim without any kind of policy basis. He has cut major multi-year funding contracts without any kind of evaluation or analysis done about the effectiveness of those projects. And he has a cavalier approach to and has systematically ignored and disregarded the advice of officials. And that is relevant. That is utterly relevant to the matter that we are debating in this bill. Because what this does is that this formalises the right of this minister to make decisions in complete disregard of the advice that he receives from the officials in the Rugby World Cup authority. And we've seen that consistently in his conduct as Minister of Foreign Affairs. And it's not only been about disregarding the advice of officials in the management of the aid program, but he has a reputation for cronyism. He has a reputation
Point of order,
for cronyism.
The Honourable Chris Finlayson.
I've listened carefully to this member's contribution. It could only be described as emotionally incontinent. Why doesn't he concentrate on Part 4, sir, instead of indulging in personal abuse?
Point of order. Speaking to point of order.
No, we don't need that.
He wasn't even there.
I was listening.
Order. I'm on my feet. There'll be no interchange. Now, the point is, I was listening to the debate, And I would say the member, in my view, is sailing close to the wind, but the point of this legislation is it does concentrate powers into the hands of certain people. And it is not, in my view, outside of the realm of to say, well, there might be some concerns about how those people exercise those powers. The point about this is that the member must concentrate on the bill and give by way of example. I invite the member to continue as 1 minute and 1 second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What we see, sir, in this bill in Part 4 is that it puts certain powers in the hands of the Rugby World Cup Minister. And there are some caveats on those powers. He's required to do certain things. He's required to secure public safety, to avoid control or mitigate any adverse impacts of the event on the environment. But, sir, these are minor. They are trifling compared to the powers that are being put into the hands of the Rugby World Cup Minister. And it's a concern to me, it's a concern to members on this side of the House that the very person who is going to be exercising the powers under this Act has a track record and a history of disregard for the basic conventions of accountable government. And we've seen it back in the 90s with the Tourism Board. We see it now with the management of the Foreign Aid Programme.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chair, I move that the question be now put.
The question is that the question be now put. Those of that opinion will say aye. The contrary opinion will say no. The ayes have it. Party vote is called for. Clerk, please conduct the party vote.
New Zealand National.
58 votes in favour.
Was that in favour?
58 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
39 votes opposed.
Green Party.
8 opposed.
Act New Zealand.
5 in favour.
Māori Party. Progressive.
1 vote opposed.
United Future.
1 vote in favour.
Honourable Chris Carter. Any other votes?
Members, the ayes are 69, the noes are 48. The question will be put. We have the question, firstly, will be on the Honourable Trevor Mallard's TypeScript amendment to Clause 51 regarding the Minister's power to grant urgent applications. Those who support that amendment will say aye. Aye. The contrary will say no. The noes have it. Party vote is called for. Clerk, please conduct the party vote.
New Zealand National.
58 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
39 votes in favour.
Green Party.
8 votes in favour.
Act New Zealand.
5 votes opposed.
Māori Party. Progressive.
1 vote in favour.
United Future.
1 vote opposed.
Honourable Chris Carter. Any other votes?
Members, the ayes are 53, the noes are 64. The amendment is not agreed to. The question now is that Part 4 stand part. Those who are of that opinion will say aye. Aye. Contrary opinion will say no. No. The ayes have it. Clerk, please conduct the party vote.
New Zealand National.
58 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
39 votes opposed.
Green Party.
8 votes opposed.
Act New Zealand.
5 votes in favour.
Māori Party. Progressive.
1 vote opposed.
United Future.
1 vote in favour.
Honourable Chris Carter. Any other votes?
Members, the ayes are 69, the noes are 49. Clause Part 4 will stand part. Members, the question now is that